We're going to talk more about this latest escalation of the war in the Middle East with Filippo Dionigi, who's a senior lecturer of politics and international relations at the University of Bristol. Filippo, thanks so much for taking the time to speak to us. Israel sending in more strikes on Hezbollah today. Its goal to destroy Hezbollah in Lebanon. Do you think it will succeed?
I think it's unlikely that Israel will be capable to guarantee for its own security to a meaningful level by using more and more force. For almost a century now, Israel has used as its strategy the use of force, and since 11 months, unrestrained and extreme force against their enemies as a way to obtain security. But the reality is that the real security that Israel is looking for can only be achieved through a political and diplomatic process that brings peace. That's the only way to obtain its real objective of full security for its own people.
So Hezbollah, for its part, has sent strikes toward military targets into Israel. What about on Hezbollah's side? Has that been successful at all? I mean, how does Hezbollah compare to the military might of Israel?
I think there's a clear mismatch. Hezbollah got involved in this war since October 8, the day after Hamas launched its attack against Israel. And for 11 months, what they tried to do was trying to basically divert the military capacity of Israel and where Israel military is down, but it wasn't able to establish that to achieve that objective to a meaningful extent. Instead, they got trapped into a conflict that they were hoping to be able to maintain to a relatively low intensity or controlled intensity at least. And however, what they obtained since yesterday is the expansion of this conflict to an unprecedented extent. Yesterday's attack have been the most serious attack and the bloodiest attack that Lebanon has suffered, at least since 2006, but probably even before, in fact. So its military capacity has not been, the military capacity of Hezbollah has not been capable of obtaining that kind of deterrence balance that they were trying to establish with Israel.
Hezbollah backed by Iran, like Hamas. What about Iran's role in all of this? Has Iran communicated on what happened yesterday in any way?
We haven't seen a major and clear stance in this respect yet. What we saw, it was reported by the media that Iran has declared on the side of current meetings taking place at the UN in New York the availability to negotiate a new nuclear pact with Western countries, which has been interpreted as an openness to diplomatic negotiations by some. But in reality, the stance of Iran is still unclear in this respect. Whether Iran will intervene or back Hezbollah robustly in this conflict or not is still something that we still have to find out.
Filippo, as you were saying before, this is the worst day of violence seen there in Lebanon from Israeli strikes since 2006, if not before. What is the risk of global escalation at this point? How do you see this developing?
I think there are 2 or 3 scenarios that are likely, that can be possibly considered, and they can also overlap with each other. One is Israel following up on yesterday's attack and also proceed with a ground invasion and make it this basically an all-out war against Lebanon and Hezbollah in particular, trying to eradicate Hezbollah from Lebanese territory. And that will mean a very open-ended and extremely violent conflict between Israel and Hezbollah with enormous consequences for the Lebanese civilian population. A second scenario, however, could be that Israel will continue through its air campaign, its air bombing of Lebanon, while keeping a diplomatic channel open. We know that, for example, French representative for Lebanon, Yves Le Drian, is now in Beirut, and there are still possibly negotiations taking place about a potential political solution to the conflict. And a third scenario, as you say, is the possibility that also other regional actors such as Iran may decide to intervene on the side of Hezbollah as part of what they call the axis of resistance. And at that point, also the US might be dragged into the conflict because, again, that escalation, that broadening, that regionalization of the conflict will have the consequences, also bringing in other actors, either on the side of Hezbollah or on the side of Israel at that point.
Filippo, thank you for that. Filippo Dionigi from the University of Bristol. Thank you.
Most welcome.